Everybody, it's the Cryptid Huntress. I'm Jessica Jones. Welcome into On the Hunt tonight, where boy do I have a great show for you guys tonight. I have a wonderful guest. We have Mike Tornincasa here out of Northeast Ohio. We're going to get into some really amazing cryptid talk tonight, paranormal talk, and all that. He is brand new to the Cryptid Hunters channel, and I cannot wait to talk about some of those Ohio cryptids and ghosts. Y'all know some of my favorite Dogman encounters come out of Ohio, and we're going to get into some of that tonight. So thank you guys so much for being here today. I hope you guys have had a wonderful, wonderful week, and we have had a full list of wonderful shows. If you guys missed any of those shows this week, please go back and check them out after the show tonight. Be sure to like all those shows and share them out to your friends. And that's how we get the channel to grow quite a bit. And so I appreciate all your support and all the love, you guys. And if you would like to become a member of the Hunt Club over here on my YouTube channel, hit that join button on the main page and become a member. I do put exclusive content out there for my members only on there. And so thank you guys so much for your continued support. If you guys would like to follow along with all of my shows and check out the archives of all of my shows, please go over to my website. That's thecryptidhuntress.com. You can find all my social media links there. And my calendar of events, y'all, I have lots of events coming up, including I have a UFO conference coming up in about 2 weeks. And I also have the Molina Bigfoot Festival and another Bigfoot Festival in North Carolina before the end of the year. So y'all, please check out my calendar of events and come see me live. I love giving presentations and I love meeting y'all in person as well. Also, there are links to my Patreon and to my shop over on Etsy if you guys are interested in that. Okay, well, without further ado, let's get to our show tonight, shall we? Okay, so tonight we are going on the hunt with paranormal researcher Mike Tornincasa of MT Paranormal Life, who investigates some pretty incredible areas of high strangeness up in Northeast Ohio. And he pretty much goes wherever the paranormal leads him, just like myself. And he is really good at bridging the gap between the living and the dead. You guys can find him over on his YouTube channel, MT Paranormal Life. You guys, please help me welcome to the show today, Mr. Mike from MT Paranormal Life. Hey, Mike.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
Hey. Thank you so much for being here. It is so wonderful to have you here on the Cryptid Hunters channel for the first time.
It's great to be here. Thanks. Thank you.
Of course. Well, we have a mutual friend, and I'm super excited to have Long Island Bigfoot. Maybe he's in the chat somewhere tonight, and so thank you. Shout out to LIB for linking us up, and I know you guys have spent some time together. I think out in the woods, probably, right?
Yeah. We me and Jack from the cameraman crew, we spent a few days out in Long Island with him and did some investigating of some of his research areas.
Oh man, I had the pleasure of going up there about 2 years ago, and I got to hang out with him and Brian Minnick of Montauk is Strange, and we had, he's incredible, man. Those two guys right there are some incredible boots on the ground researchers, and if you want to go to Montauk, you take those guys, right? And Camp Hero, that area, they know it like the back of their hands.
Yeah,
for sure.
I want to go back and check out more places like Camp Hero. I would definitely love to do that.
Oh yeah, that's one of those places that the supernatural, the paranormal, and the cryptids collide in that one area right there. It's got to be like ley lines, energetic fields. I don't know. There's something wild. Maybe it's all the experiments they've done up there with teleportation and time travel and stuff too, but there's something that makes that place real special, I think.
Yes, for sure. So that's on my list. I looked up a little bit about Montauk and caught my interest, and I didn't really ask much about that area when I was visiting. I happened to discover a lot of that after. So as soon as I kind of seen that, I was like, I reached back out the mic and I'm like, I got to come back out there. I'm like, I got to go see what's going on around there because it looks like there's a lot of really interesting places to go check out.
Oh yeah,
and Brian's got some serious research, man.
Yeah, he does.
Oh man.
I mean, yeah, everybody go get his book. Everybody that's watching tonight, if you hadn't already purchased Brian Minnick's book, it's called Montauk is Strange, and he's dedicated his heart and soul into that book and all his research. So I think it's important that we do uncover the true history of places like that. It's a very dark history there, and much like a lot of these places where my team goes out and researches. And we have, like I said, there's like a collision of like paranormal, supernatural, and cryptids in places like that. And it's just an area of high strangeness, but a lot of trauma happened there as far as the children and the people involved in the Montauk Project. That's kind of like places where we end up. I know you kind of follow the paranormal, kind of follows you around, kind of like it does me, I think, and or I follow it, maybe. But it takes us places where there has been trauma, like battlefields, and we really don't know our land's true history when it comes down to it. But yeah, trauma and stuff. So I don't know, how did you get into chasing the paranormal and cryptids?
Well, up until I'd say probably the very first experience I had, I pretty much thought it was all BS. Like I was pretty fixated on watching like Ghost Adventures and Ghost Hunters, and I put about like there's a slight chance that there's probably something that's going on. And I've said this before, and I think it's a good way. I always thought of it as like it's like the WWE like style of TV. Yeah. And that's how, it's honestly how I seen it. I'm like, okay, this is all like people freaking out over nothing, and they're trying to get their ratings. And because up until that point, I mean, I was like almost 40 at that time. This was back in like 20, the early 2000s to 20. My very first experience was around 2015, and I never had really anything. I've never experienced anything myself. And so, most people probably are the same way. You really don't, you kind of see a lot of things and you think people are overreacting or you think they're faking. And, until like you have a real encounter, a real personal encounter, you really don't know. And you think most people, cause it's hard to believe, and that first experience for me, without getting into too much of the backstory, was, I had done a recording at my home at the time. I was married then, and I had a few small children, and I was investigating my home, like to try to validate some of these things that were happening that I couldn't quite believe, but I believed what my family was telling me. But I still hadn't experienced the things that they had in the home. So on Halloween, I was just kind of like, hey, I'm going to investigate my home and see what happens, see if something happens that has happened before. I had a son, one of my younger sons with me at the time, and nobody else wanted to do it, of course. I shut all the power off to the home because I had an EMF meter and I didn't want anything to give me any false readings, like any of the wiring, because this is an old home and I had old uninsulated wiring. So I shut the breaker off, had my EMF meter and my cell phone with a recording app, and I just did an audio recording. And I was communicating because, I've never done this before. So I'm like, well, I'm just going to act like somebody's there and talk and see if somebody says something. I was asking questions, and then I saw my EMF meter, which was a K2 standard. I saw it start spiking all the way up to red and back and forth, and in a way that kind of looked like an old stereo. when you're listening to, vocals, you could see like the pitches change. It started spiking like that, and I was like, wow, that was pretty unexpected, because there was no reason why that would have happened normally. So that happened, and throughout the rest of the night, I didn't hear or see anything. So I wrote it off as nothing happened, like, okay, it was kind of a, letdown, you could say, because I was trying to see if some of these other things were going to happen. Like maybe a month or 2 months go by, never listened to that recording. I was going to pick up at the time, my brother-in-law. I was just driving over to pick him up. I think we were going to go somewhere. And I dialed his number. And this is digital age now. This isn't like old analog service. Yeah, I get that, because a lot of people about to say, what I'm about to talk about, they're like, oh, that was cross signals. I'm like, well, this is digital service. This is an analog. I dial his number, and I'm waiting for the call to connect. I kind of hear that pause, like you can hear like the open line, but there's no, no ringing, nothing. And then I hear this voice, sounded like a robot. Like somebody with, I don't know if you're familiar with someone who's had a tracheotomy and they have the vibrating voice box.
Yes.
It sounded like that.
Oh,
but,
my.
Real robotic-y. And the voice said, "Hello, Michael." I mean, very clear. So clear. And I was just like stunned. I just sat there holding the phone, and I realized what I just heard, and I had a hard time processing it. And then the call connected, and I hear his phone ringing. And then I left him a strange voicemail that sounded like I was lost in space. I was just like, "Hey, Randy, it's Mike," and I was still just sitting there. I couldn't stop thinking about that voice. But ever since that moment, I realized there's someone that is able to talk to me from the other side. They were able to use my cell phone, talk to me in live time, find me, talk to me in live time in their own voice, just like that, out of nowhere. And I was just like, there was absolutely no doubt in my mind that there is something that's going on, or there is some connection in between that we don't normally understand, or that isn't normally there but can come through somehow. And that was what started this whole, and I think that was meant for a reason. And I'm not sure if that reason was to start me down this path, to keep opening up and trying to see what's out there for some reason, or what it was about.
Oh, yeah. That's kind of what happens to a lot of us who have gotten into these fields of cryptid and paranormal, supernatural field research. It's something that it kind of blows your mind. You have no explanation for, and it's like I want to call it a gateway drug.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like into other stuff. And
Right.
because I started off doing, being really interested in ghosts and ghost hunting as well. And and I want to say that robotic voice that you heard, that is not uncommon when it comes to getting into this field of research, actually, because I remember when I first started doing the Bigfoot field research, the head of one of my main team that I was on, he was talking about how when he got really deep into the Bigfoot research and started realizing there was a connection between ET and Bigfoot, his life got really weird, and it kind of snowballed into him getting phone calls or the phone ringing and it being a robotic voice, just like how you described. It sounded like a garbled robotic voice on there, and he was like, "Yeah, no, I'm gonna quit doing this. I'm gonna take a break."
Yeah.
Is what he said, because at that point it got too weird for
That
him.
made me want more, which is
Yeah.
why I'm doing what I do now. But I just want to mention that voice spoke to me 2 other occasions too.
Did it?
Same manner, in between a phone call, and it was like a decent gap. Like, it just caught me out of the blue 2 other times, but it was so robotic-y, I couldn't understand what it was saying. But it wasn't just like a simple couple words like "Hello, Michael," which came through real easy to understand. It was like speaking, and I couldn't understand what it was saying. The last time, it sounded angry the last time, which didn't make me feel any better. But I could tell in its pitch, it was like there was some kind of like hot, like it was saying stuff louder, and it was talking like it was angry. And then that's when I finally spoke. And because I'm like, it sounds like it's getting ticked off for some reason, maybe because I'm not talking. So I was like, I can't understand you. You know, that was like my only reply. And then that was the last time it ever happened.
Well, I love your YouTube channel. I've actually watched several of your videos there, and I love how you're actually quite nice to the spirits and stuff out there, and to the cryptids, whatever's out in the woods when you're out there doing your investigations. You're very calm, it seems like, and that's quite. It's kind of a difference between the like the TV shows that we watch. Like, listen, you mentioned Ghost Adventures. I have to say that was always my favorite go to right there, and they just got the evidence, like they got the results, and but it did kind of stem. Some of it was from kind of being mean to the spirits and like provoking and stuff. I mean, you know what I mean? So,
right.
And I don't do that when I'm out there in the field with the Bigfoot research and stuff. Like, we don't go, I mean, I am bait. I'll admit, I love being bait. Okay. I'll be Bigfoot bait any day.
Yeah.
But I'm not out there like challenging them and stuff, show yourself.
Yeah, that's like, I took it a different way, because I think, changing your mood, changing your feelings, it'll affect the environment. So I started to come up with a way where I wanted to provoke, right? I wanted to try to get a response and not be, and just reflect my personality in a way. And I put it as like a dare or a challenge. I wasn't like rude or mean. I was just like, I'm like, I would say, I'm like, I don't, something seems to be throwing stuff, can you throw it? Go ahead, throw it at me. Just don't hit me. Like, let me see, that would be pretty amazing to do. And I would like try to encourage that kind of activity. Right. But I wouldn't be like trying to be like a jerk, trying to actually provoke in a way that's like, condescending or to be mean.
Yeah.
I would actually challenge, is more like, I guess you could say it. I would challenge activity wherever it came from.
Mm-hmm.
And there's times like, I don't know if you've seen it in the Poltergeist Awakens, from my experiences with things being thrown, with sounds like things being thrown and hitting.
So
So
like rocks or something.
I would throw rocks myself. I
Mm-hmm.
would throw them, and I'd keep throwing them, and I'd try to hit trees, and I'd be like, I'm like, okay, well, let's see if you can do it again. Do what I just did. Or maybe you don't like that I'm throwing rocks. So, you want to throw them back. Go ahead. Just don't hit me. But, that's the kind of, you could say, like the challenging that I do to try to see, it's like experimenting, right? Because that's kind of, you just try different things.
Oh yeah. Well, you're also, you mentioned you're a dad as well. And it's like challenging your kids, like when they're playing sports and stuff too, now so I was out in the field last weekend, and a week ago tonight, as a matter of fact, I was getting hit with infrasound. We were having rocks thrown at the camp by our campfire, or something. We were getting stuff that was thrown from the woods at us. We even had some neighbors up the road in a camper, some people that were camping out. Shout out to Stacy and Brian, by the way. But they were up there camping, and by an abandoned campsite that was up there, that had been abandoned about 2 weeks ago, I guess. And it looks like people just ran out, maybe potentially ran out in the middle of the night because they got scared and left everything behind. And we found, actually, Brian, one of the guys that was, he and his wife were camped out up that way. They found footprints on Sunday morning, big footprints around that campsite. After we had something, potentially a Dogman or a werewolf, run out past that camp, and all sorts of wild stuff. A tree got knocked down right beside our campsite Saturday night. So that was 1 week ago tonight. All the craziness went down out there. But we were, we weren't even out there like challenging anything. We were just out there to observe. And and they didn't want us there, apparently, or they just got tired of us being out there, I guess. My question to you was, like, when you were out there, I know the Poltergeist Awakens, you were outside in the woods. Do you think that you were dealing with cryptids, or do you think you were dealing with something supernatural?
That's a good question. I wish I knew.
Yeah.
All I could say is I refer to this phantom activity as poltergeist, as the force poltergeist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because with my actual sighting of something that I lean more towards what I seen was some kind of a cryptid, confirmed myself personally that I think there are other kinds of entities that are out that can be there. However they come, I don't know, because I had to absorb a glimpse of one in a matter of a second, and what I seen was pretty crazy, like to try to describe. But so I know, and people have seen these, and I've seen videos where there's been sightings, and so I know there are things that are out there, but other than like the one physical sighting I've seen of something, I don't know what else is out there and what else is doing this. But I've read very interesting comparisons to things that have happened in many documented poltergeist cases. And if you read about the activity of structures being stacked, things being thrown, rocks being thrown at the house, you come to a conclusion that it seems to mirror in a way what poltergeist activity can do that people experience in their homes out in the forest. So, in most of the time, these things are just elusive. And a lot of times I don't even see what's causing the noises.
Neither do we.
It's just sounds.
That's why I love, okay, so I love this conversation tonight, right? Because I have goosebumps actually, because I'm like, you know what, this is something that we need to talk about as far as like the cryptid field research goes as well, because a lot of times we don't see anything out there,
Yeah.
but we're experiencing the energetic shifts, we're experiencing the things being thrown. We're experiencing lights in the woods. Like we had lots of lights in the woods last weekend, where my friend Keith and I thought it was the guys that we were passing out in the woods, but they thought it was us. And then when we got up to the top field, we were like, well, we thought that was y'all down there, both of us. And we're like, okay, well, there's just so much more out there that could be poltergeist. Okay, now poltergeist activity, maybe it's not cryptid activity, or maybe it's all in the same.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
It's like the more we think we know, the less we know, or the more we go out there and experience, the less we know.
Right. And that's one of the things I've always focused on too, is not trying to find the answers so much. I try to focus on just the activity, and that's why I prefer an experiencer as like an actual title of what I do, because I don't necessarily try to solve problems that are, you could say solve problems, try to figure out what's happening. What I try to do is originally I wanted to see if the same things that happened to me in the past would happen with the voice phenomenons, and then it turned into a whole lot more happening. And so I try to document what happens,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't necessarily try to draw a conclusion to what it is. I just try to capture it in its raw happenings to see how what can happen, what actually
Mm-hmm.
can happen, and that's like an explorer mindset, because the danger of what's happening or what you could get into because you're going somewhere where you've never been, or you're exploring something that you don't know what the hell is going on, but you want to experience what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's right if you know it's right for you to do that and accept that, because people freak out all the time, when they're like they're basically yelling at me, telling me I got to worry about this, I got to worry about that. But I always go with my gut, and my gut usually is telling me that I'm going to be okay, and I'm not pushing boundaries that might turn into some negative type of energy. So I just kind of like experience what happens, but I know things are listening. I know whatever's there is listening, and that's why these things happen, is because you're the key. We're the key when we're there. It happens because we're there, and not everybody's the same. Everybody's got their own frequencies of their body, their vibrations, their heart, their brain, everything is your unique like signature, right? You're a unique beacon. And that is what I think certain kinds of energies and entities are attracted to, what draws them towards you. So I think some people can interact differently, draw different kinds of things to them. And, so that's some of the things that I've noticed that happens. And I mostly try to find it. I try to make, see what will happen, see what happens. But um, I know that they're listening, and if you do voice phenomenon, if you do EVPs and you listen, you'll hear, and I think this is a higher dimensional thing that's happening all around with the energy.
Mhm. And you have hit the nail on the head in so many ways, and I love it. And I do not have all the answers to anything. I don't have any answers actually,
Yeah.
but that's something that I've noticed too. It's not just like the land that we're going to; it's the people,
Hmm.
and that's why I'm pretty particular about who I go out in the field with. And in my case, my whole team is at least one or two of my teams. We are trained extensively in remote viewing, and so we've trained for, I'm going to say, at least a decade
Wow.
in just remote viewing, over a decade, really. But and that's the type that the military uses, that type of remote viewing, and it's we've worked out our psychic muscle, so to speak, right? And so there's an energetic factor to that, and it changes you energetically when you do tune into your psychic abilities and your gut reaction, your gut feeling. And I mean, you're, like I said, you're hitting all the nails on the head in my book. Okay, when it comes to the protocols that we have as a team and the things that we've learned, it's you'd fit right in. I'm just saying, if you ever want to come out with my team, okay, because we're very much into bringing the right people out there. And I remember there was a point where some of the guys were like, "Yeah, Jessica, be sure you come out there," because every time I would come out to the field, weird stuff would happen. Okay, and maybe it's the frequency that I was on. I've just always been in tune with really weird stuff, paranormal stuff, and it seemed as though the first time I went on a Bigfoot expedition, not only were we having Bigfoot activity out there, but it's like the ET activity ramped up for all of them. And
Yeah.
we had UFOs. I mean, my team has documented portals. The team has sent people in to investigate portals, and they've disappeared, and then came back, reappeared, their heat signatures at least. And we just experienced it all out there. And in order to be able to do that and not lose your mind, you have to have your head on straight,
Yeah.
and you have to really be in a good place mentally to be able to handle all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Right.
Right. It's like a belonging feeling. It's like a super trust kind of exercise. Like
Mm-hmm.
once you've had experiences, can happen, what's out there, and you go for that experience. It's like you're vulnerable.
Yeah.
But I think if you're vulnerable when you do it, it's like a certain strength that some people have, and I think that's part of the mixture why things happen, to some people. And that's might be why some negative things happen to others who, might try to interact or do things, and they're
Yeah.
not seen the same as others, and certain things see them maybe as like some kind of a negative thing themselves.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about poltergeist for just a minute. Okay, because poltergeists are very interesting. The whole poltergeist phenomenon. I know a lot of people know poltergeist from the movie Come Towards the Light, Carol Ann, or whatever,
Yeah.
um, Carol Ann. And I've referenced that movie several times because we're talking about, like, homes built on top of Indian burial grounds and graves. And gosh, that sucks. Okay, that's got to suck. Finding out your home was built on top of some kind of burial mound or something. And there's probably a lot more of that goes on than we can imagine. Okay.
Right.
Um, but poltergeist, I remember seeing the first time I saw an object levitate in front of my face. I was living in a haunted apartment, an old house in Atlanta. I live in Georgia, by the way. So I was down in when I was a young lass living in downtown Atlanta, and I lived in kind of I want to say a seedy part of town. Okay, kind of, but it's just right where the clubs and the bars and everything were, and right across from the Claremont Lounge. All my ATL folks will know what that is, and so I was having a lot of paranormal activity at this apartment. I'm talking about, like, come home at night and like black flies would be blanketed on my ceiling,
Wow.
go down the hallway, like black masses of, like, just a black mass would like fly through my apartment and like it knocked me down one night. And it's just weird, like it's almost like demonic type stuff was happening there. It was not good. Okay. But one night I woke up and I was hearing like a something moving, and I had a cat at the time named Mayu. And I was like, Mayu, stop it. I thought he was, in my mind, I was seeing like a cat, like moving something on my table with his hand, like moving it, moving it, moving it. And I just yelled again. I was like, Mayu, stop it. And the next thing I know, this vase, this like glass vase, I had a flower in it, went flying off my bedside table, and it was suspended in the air. And I was watching this, and then it sat there for just a minute, just a few seconds, and then it crashed to the floor. And my cat meowed from over across the room. It wasn't my cat. But I saw this now. I would attribute this to poltergeist activity. And when I think of poltergeist, I think, like, I look back on that, I'm like, well, I think that was my energy probably. And even though it was a haunted house, very haunted, I wonder if that was me. You know what I mean? Like, because that's kind of like a manifestation of something inside of us, they say. So I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, obviously something is able to like manipulate molecules of objects, like some kind of a force that can do that. And from some of the poltergeist accounts, like was the Black Monk, a pontiff, and things you hear about a the young girl, and I think in that case, and they attributed the poltergeist activity to what do you call that? Psychokinesis?
Yes.
Is that like
PK.
where people can manipulate and move things with their mind, with the
Yes.
and they said that it seemed like she was doing it, but then I think she had some kind of an evil spirit or something that was possessing her or something, and somehow I don't know if her ability caused all this to happen. But so yeah, what you're saying about it being possibly created personally, it seems like that seems to go hand in hand with most poltergeist accounts, is someone who has some kind of PK type of potential or ability to do that. Now, one thing that the one first account of something like that happening was at the house I was talking about that led up to that voice phenomenon experience. My ex-wife and my son witnessed a poltergeist event that they both seen it and told me about it. And of course, I couldn't really dismiss it because I believed what they told me. But this was back in like 2014, 2015. My ex-wife had a teapot, the boiler, the water boilers. You're familiar with those? They have like a base they sit in. You plug them in and you fill them up with water, and then you set them in it and it boils it.
Yeah.
Had that full of water and it was boiling. And then they witnessed this fly off the base, like literally project off the base over the edge of the breakfast bar and crashed on the ground and broke all over. And so that, and then if you ever tried to even like, I was trying to debunk this, which I kind of wondered, I'm like, I don't know how this could happen just accidentally without literally something hitting it. Because I tried it empty when we got a new one, and even empty, it had to be physically like pushed off the base, let alone full of water, which is when it happened. So that was like the first time I've heard of something like that happening. And my first real experience with, like, I couldn't believe, was at a place we call the Swamp here in Northeast Ohio. And this was, I don't know what caused this, if it was something physically throwing these rocks. Right. But these are one of the only times where I've actually found the object and we've seen the object that was thrown or that got launched. And these were very large rocks, like bigger than a softball. And they captured them on video. Both times this happened. This happened twice in the same location. And these rocks came with such velocity and impact that it was hard to believe a person could have done it, let alone the distance that these traveled to hit the impact, to the point of impact. And that right there made me like, that was one of the first like holy S moments that really made me wonder what kind of energy is there and what's doing this. And again, I don't know. There was nothing we seen. It was dark. This was all nighttime. And to think somebody would be doing this and we weren't able to see them with our thermal, and nobody had any lights on at any point around when this happened to actually see him. We couldn't say that, it was a person who threw these. And there was one person with us when both of these happened, and it was the first 2 times they were there with us. So we kind of wondered if this was some kind of like, I honestly asked myself, was this him? Like, could this possibly have been something with him, like himself,
Wow.
maybe a PK in a way, like something
Yeah.
like, was he somehow manifesting this to happen? Or is this a response to him being there for the first time back to back, his first 2 times? And if you look in the videos, like in my videos, those rock throws were crazy. Like I measured the one rock; it was like 5 inches by like 3 by 2 3/4 inches. I mean, it's a massive
Wow.
rock that weighed like 2 pounds, and this thing this thing sounded like it got shot out of a cannon when it hits the tree.
Wow.
Yeah, that kind of energy always made me like worry a little bit, but then wonder: is this like a warning, or is this communication in the way, or what?
Well, you know what? Okay, so this is where like the paranormal and the cryptids collide. Okay. And I love how this is a very outside the box kind of a conversation here, because we're, Bigfoot people who are out there looking for Bigfoot, everything's going to be Bigfoot. Okay. People that are on a ghost hunt, everything's going to be a ghost. Okay. People who are looking to the sky for UFOs, everything's going to be a UFO. Okay. That's just the way it is. That's how people are. And and in my case, and a lot of my friends and people that I go and do our research with, it's like, well, we kind of just have to keep an open mind about everything. And it's not very often that I actually talk to people like yourself that are like, well, what if these rock throws are actually poltergeist and not a Bigfoot? Because in my mind, I'm thinking, well, that's got to be a Bigfoot or a Dogman. Usually it's a Bigfoot that throws rocks. We assume. We just assume that, but maybe it's not. And especially if you're not picking up on a heat signature anywhere. You guys had thermals out there
Yeah.
and didn't pick up on anything.
Yeah, I had my thermal going at the time of the second rock throw, and I immediately was looking around. Like when it happened, I was looking around with the thermal, trying to see if there was someone. Plus, it's easy to spot someone who has a flashlight when we know where we're at and when we have flashlights. If there was, because nobody in these areas we're at would be out there with no flashlight, because it's under canopy. It's just pitch black. You can't see. You can't see if you didn't have some form of light or something. So we were pretty convinced. Yeah, no flashlights, and the thermal immediately. Like luckily, the second time I had the thermal right in my hand at the time that happened, and I was immediately scanning and I was looking to see if there was somebody nearby, because one of the most scariest things out there is people.
Yeah. Tell
And
me
you
about it.
never know what the hell people will do, right?
Yeah.
And especially if you happen to go out in areas that might be publicly accessible,
Hmm.
who's out there, because we've ran into people living out in places, and so trust me, like the worry of people is big wherever we're at. Whenever things happen, we're always aware that there's possibly people around. That's why we usually stay mostly going to areas we're familiar with. But
Hmm.
yeah, so we were pretty convinced nobody was around when this happened, and that was a show of like some kind of power, you could say, that like I was not expecting. And because I've heard like rocks hit, right, and it's usually
Hmm.
like sounds like a smack of a tree, or it sounds like um, a rock clanking off a tree. But this was like an explosion of velocity and power of a massive rock, and back to back times. It was so strange, and it was, yeah, the poltergeist or cryptid kind of thing was always always in my mind. What's happening.
Wow. Well, here's the way I look at the rock throwing too, whether it's poltergeist or Bigfoot. People are rarely hit with those rocks.
Right.
Like never. I don't know anybody that's actually, well, maybe I do know somebody that's gotten hit before. Okay. But usually if it's a hit, it hits a car, it hits a tree, it lands. I mean, I've had several rocks land right at my feet. And I don't know how it didn't hit. I think my Long Island Bigfoot, Mike and I were talking about how rocks have been thrown, and they just kind of, it's almost like he described it like a golf ball. Like you hit a golf ball and like it'll go land on the green. It's just like it just stops. And it
Right.
doesn't really make sense. It's like how that ball just like stop
Right.
instead of rolling. And that's what those rocks do out there sometimes. Same thing. It's just, it doesn't make sense.
Right. Yeah, that was so common, and that last filming that I had over at the place we call Claim 2 with that video that the Poltergeist Awakens video, that place has always been an active place with that kind of activity. But that night I was there, it was a different level. And some of the I call them phantom knocks were really insane. Like some of the closest, loudest ones that I just couldn't believe it wasn't Jack was there. It was there's times where I'm like, how is this possible? Like, I've heard some knocks that are light and, but something so like loud and powerful right by you. It was kind of shocking. And, something was alive that night, like something was active big time. And you can hear stuff hitting the ground, what sounded like a rock ricocheting up high, tree to tree to tree in a way that doesn't make sense. That kind of stuff is pretty amazing. It makes you wonder what's causing these sounds.
Well, being a cryptid field researcher, I say it's Bigfoot.
Yeah.
But you never know. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you don't know. And I think there always could be some kind of combination of things going on. It could be all of it out there, because I think that I know. I don't know a lot, but I know that there is some kind of X factor, as we call it, to Bigfoot and to Dogman and to all the other cryptids that are out there. There's something that we can't explain. I mean, we can't explain
Right.
any of it, but there's something that you just can't put your finger on. It's something supernatural about the cryptids, in my experience, where they could just disappear. They can cloak. There was an incident with you in LIB, I believe, where there was some cloaking going on in some of the
Yeah.
trees. Tell me about that.
That was really interesting. We noticed eyes, and I'm big on using red light for various reasons. One of
Me
which,
too.
even in nature, if you want to be able to catch something that might be nearby and watching, you can. Red light makes the eye shine stand out tremendously.
Mhm.
Um, it's also good when you're in heavily bug infested areas, to help minimize insects being drawn towards your light because the spectrum is different. And there was an entity that bringing up the red light. This leads to what another incident, but I'll just mention that real quick. Jack, the cameraman, captured something that was transparent that probably came up 5 feet to him, and he turned with his red light. And I think the spectrum of the red light, you can actually, I think if you had white light, you probably wouldn't have seen it. And the red light outlined something, which right now in all the shit I've seen, this was probably one of the things that was the most amazing of an entity that's right there, right in front of him, outlined in a red light, and you can see it, and it's transparent. It's one of the wildest things I've ever seen, and it's at a place called Claim 3 that we go. Um, but we had the red light on when we were at Long Island, and the eyes, we've seen the eyes, but I noticed the eyes were vertical. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, one of the only things I know, maybe an owl could possibly turn its head, but it just seemed oddly spaced, the eyes, to be an owl, like too big of a gap or something like that.
Mhm.
And it seemed to like move too when we were walking, trying to find our way around to get closer to it. You can see it, and it was moving, and it seemed like it was moving with us. So we're like, well, it's definitely eyes, and they're watching us. And we got all the way around to the other side, and we were able to access it. We could see it literally. It was like up in the tree, probably, I don't know, 50 feet up maybe. And you could see the eyes there looking at us. And we're just like, there it is. And I even got my white light, and I'm getting to the tree because I'm like, I want to see what this thing is. Because, and I'm shining my light up, and like, I can't see anything. There's like nothing. And we were joking. We're like, it's like the tree has eyes. Literally, it looked like the tree had eyes.
The
And
hills have eyes, but
yeah,
now the trees have eyes.
it was very strange. And it like at first I'm like, okay, maybe it's an owl. That's what I kept thinking, because one of the only things I know that will turn sideways is an owl. Um, and it was a big eye gap, so it wasn't small, whatever it was. It wasn't like a raccoon or something that was like looking sideways, because it was definitely not little beady eyes. They're pretty big, and you can probably see that in the video. And when I had the white light, and I could like, you can see where it's at, and anything that would be that close, normally you can see it, especially if you hit it the white light and you're right at the tree. and like there was nothing there. It literally looked like eyes were just sitting there in the tree. It was very strange.
Whoa. So basically, it looked like maybe a Bigfoot had. Oh, excuse me. Almost like a Bigfoot. That scared me. Sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry, I forgot my dog was sitting in here. So,
Yeah,
but
you can't control that.
yes, I just jumped, y'all. So sorry. Okay, but it's like a Bigfoot had its head like turned sideways, like peeking out from behind a tree. Is that kind of like what it looked like, or
Whatever was there looked like it. Okay, well, here's the thing. It never really seemed to like go horizontal, but they were eyes, and it looked like whatever it was just like, I mean, if you were to compare it to normal, pretty much everything animal wise that we're used to, your eyes are horizontal.
mm-hmm.
This looked like they were vertical eyes, and from the reflection and how it moved and it was following us, it definitely looked, it was eye shine that was watching us.
Wow.
But it stayed vertical.
Oh my gosh.
So, and that's what was, I mean, it was just very strange. And if I could have seen something there, I could have been able to say what it was.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just like there, and even when you could see the eyes and look up with the lights, there was like nothing in the tree. So it was very strange.
Oh, kind of like Cloaked. Like I actually, one of my first experiences, which was something that was probably a Bigfoot, was the first time I ever went on an expedition, Bigfooting back in 2011. Okay, and I was being Bigfoot bait. I volunteered to be Bigfoot bait, and something. Okay, so the guys were actually sitting down at the bottom of this hill, and they were all watching me through FLIRs and thermals, any kind of night vision that they had, whatever they were holding. And they said, that's what gave me the confidence to walk up this hill by myself to this tree line. And it was about I must have been 100 yards up the hill, something like that, 75 to 100 yards up to this tree line. And it was just an open field. And I got about halfway up that field, knowing that those guys were watching me, gave me some, like I said, some confidence. I was still a little scared. I'd never gone Bigfooting before, and I was being bait. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard somebody running up behind me. I thought it was one of those men. And I didn't know, I'd only met one of them, I think. I only knew one of them kind of, and I didn't know the rest of those guys. And so I was thinking, man, why would those guys try to scare me like this? Like I thought they were going to run up and like say boo, know. And I kind of braced for impact because I heard somebody running fast. And I used to play sports in college. I played rugby, and I know what it's like to get tackled. And I thought somebody was going to grab me or tackle me or something. I don't know.
Somebody was coming at you and not stopping.
Yeah, I didn't know what they were doing. I was like, this is weird. This is messed up, dude. How unprofessional, of the not that nobody's professional out there, okay, but as he got, and I say he because I thought it was one of them. I got right up to me. I braced for impact, and I felt a leg sweep, like their legs sweep my legs out from under me, and like they just kept running to my left behind me, and I looked over, and there was nobody there. But yeah, I had my legs swept. I heard it. I felt the wind like sweep past me, and it got my legs, and I kind of lost my balance, and I thought, man, what the heck was that? Like that was weird. And I was so nervous. I just thought maybe my mind was playing tricks on me. Because I was so confused. There was nothing there. The guys told me they saw nothing in their thermals, nothing in the FLIR, nothing. But it was a very real experience actually for me when that happened.
Yeah, that's like the first time doing that, being bait, and something literally is like, well, let's see how well she does, and just gives you a full full charge and a sweep. That's pretty crazy.
Well, if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be here with you talking about it today, probably. Seriously, because sometimes it's like you got to have something that like just blows your mind so much. If this is like your path that you're supposed to be on, and this is like your destined path in life, is to talk about Bigfoot. Right. It's like I had to have some kind of crazy experience to like suck me in right off the bat. Otherwise, I would have just gone home and I would have gone about my everyday life, and I would have not been so interested in it.
Yeah. One of the things too, we were talking about Hillview Manor. Hillview Manor was kind of like a reawakening for me about, because the very first experience I talked about where someone was talking to me through my phone, but they obviously knew me because they said hello to me in my name in real time, and that that event, even now, here's the thing: at the time, I that event was pretty amazing, but since I've been doing this for the past few years and having experiences, I'm coming to realize how incredibly special that was, that moment, that very first moment of that event.
Mhm.
Because you hear so much with EVPs, and you hear voices, and you hear disembodied voices, but to actually hear like a lifetime voice speaking to you personally in real time, it was like pretty amazing to me, even thinking back, knowing what I know now, even more amazing. But Hillview Manor, I had an incident. I had something happen that kind of like reminded me that there is someone from beyond, maybe multiple, maybe this was the same spirit talking to me with the disembodied voice that spoke to me at Hillview Manor, said my name out loud, and it sounded like they were in the room with me when I heard it, and they said Michael, and it gave me that feeling that like took me back to that phone call, because that voice was real. It sounded like somebody was right there in the room with me, and they said my name out loud, and it was a woman's voice, and it sounded. I'm not gonna lie, it sounded very similar. Sounded like my grandmother when I heard it, and it was just that when I heard that, I was again, it shocked me, and I was like, wow. I'm like, how is there this other just crazy phenomenon that seems to be impossible happens, and it's seems to be talking to me directly again.
Wow. Okay, so just to show the audience tonight what Hillview Manor is, this place, where is this located? Is this in Pennsylvania?
Newcastle, Pennsylvania.
Okay, Pennsylvania. That is a sprawling building right there. It says that it was abandoned for a while, according to what it says on their website here. And but Hillview Manor was known as the Lawrence County Home for the Aged, also known as the Poor House or Poor Farm, where mentally ill, severely destitute, and elderly residents resided. Now, that sounds like that would make for an excellent paranormal investigation, albeit really creepy. Really creepy. Now, is this, uh, you mentioned that it sounded like your grandmother. It does say that there's actually, this was a place for, like a I don't want to say retirement community would be like putting it nicely.
Yeah,
It's not really, it seems like it was like let's just say like an old folks home, I guess, there.
yeah.
But,
There's a lot of places that were like these manors back in
mhm,
that time frame, because there were a lot of people who had nobody, and they didn't have
yeah.
anybody to take care of them. They didn't have any money. Um, most places they even took like children in who didn't have anybody, or people who just didn't have any support or any money, and they would take care of them. And I think that's where the poor house, or they call them poor farms. That's where, like, at certain times where it wasn't like before Hillview Manor changed into just a home for the elderly, it was a place like that, which it seems like that was something that was at that time, the era. It was a change across. It seemed like across many places where they did that, and there were a lot. There's a lot of accounts at these places, like of people who, they get some people who are pretty bad in some of these places, and people who are in just bad shape, and there's a lot of unfortunate incidents that have occurred there. So there's a lot of trauma in these places from, some of them go back to like the early 1900s even, and some of them, and and then they've changed into like these care facilities, and then you've had hospice and care in most of these places. And Hillview Manor was interesting, and that was a place where, yeah, I think this was. I hope I'm not mixing it up with the one here in Stark County, but I'm pretty sure that place, the family that owned it, that they got in big trouble there, because they were hiding some of the deceased. They were hiding that they died,
Oh no. And they had a
and I
bunch of
think they
kids
were.
there too.
Yeah,
Actually, I was reading
they
they
were.
called them inmates. Man, they
Yeah,
called
they
them. It's
called
like
them
a
inmates.
prison.
Yeah,
It's
they
horrible.
were disguising they were disguising their deaths, and they were mass burying them on the grounds.
Oh
and they weren't
God.
reporting that they passed away, and they were collecting their Social Security and they were collecting their pensions and things.
Oh geez.
And then the owners got into deep trouble there. They end up, I think they end up getting relieved eventually of their title there. So you've got you've got what seemed like some pretty devious people who were running it. And the second floor there is actually the level of the I'm trying to think what they call the person who runs it, the main, who's in charge. It was like a man and his wife.
Mhm.
They're the ones that got in big trouble over what happened, but that was like their floor for the most part, the second floor, and that's an active level in that place because they say that they weren't very good people, you could say, and there's a lot of like they were pretty mean. They called them inmates. They treated them pretty rough, and
Yeah.
even their negative energy is supposed to be on that second floor where they lived at.
Gosh, that is just heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking. And I'm noticing that it says that they opened the doors
That's
in 1926. So this is during the Great Depression.
right.
And so, I've done a lot of shows too on, wait, not a lot of shows. We've talked about a good bit. Um, some of these old world buildings and stuff and being repurposed and I'm talking about like castles and stuff. I'm not saying this was a castle, but being repurposed into insane asylums and, you know, facilities like this out there. And there was such an uptick in like insane asylums back in the Depression days. And, we're making these connections to like the mud flood, if there was a mud flood. Okay. But like mud floods and the great resets and human resets and all that. And I hate to say re-education camps and stuff, but places where like this, or like you said, there's a lot of trauma. This may even have something to do maybe with some of the orphan trains and kids that were orphaned as well, having to live there. And what a horrible place to have to go and to have to deal with such sadists and stuff like that would be in charge of places like that sometimes.
Yeah,
Um,
it says there Perry and Mary Snyder.
mhm.
That's who I was talking about. They ran the facility when it opened until 1944, and they were asked to resign due to possible mismanagement. And they're the ones that called them inmates. Those were the two that I was referring to that ended up having to resign over those issues, and that involved the lying about the deaths of some of the people and
Yeah.
collecting their money.
That's really sad, man. That's really sad.
Mm-hmm.
But
Greed.
unfortunately, yeah, there's greed is a terrible thing,
Yep.
and it's really tragic. But they it seems like this place was abandoned for a while. I've also made a connection to like abandoned buildings and cryptids as well. Okay, not just ghosts, but like cryptids. And I just did a show this past week on what was that the dream mall world. It's called Mall World, and where all these people are having this collective dream about being in abandoned malls, basically, or like liminal spaces, like where it's open but there's no people in there. And so all these like thousands of people are reporting having these dreams right now of being in abandoned buildings and abandoned malls, and that are like labyrinths. They're just
Yeah,
mazes. You can't get out of it. I mean,
I just had
gosh.
one recently like that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
Oh my gosh. I
I'd
wonder
say
what
it's
that
not that
is.
uncommon either for me.
Really? It's kind of the same for a lot of people. I was shocked. I couldn't believe the amount of people who commented. Thank you for everybody who commented under that video, by the way. It does help with the algorithm, but I do love hearing what you guys have to say because so many people have had those same dreams. It's
It's
like,
like things get smaller,
mhm,
corridors get smaller and smaller, and then you like find yourself trying to get through places you can't fit through, and then you end up like, and that's what seems like those places turn into in mine, anyways. And
mhm.
then you end up waking up freaking out, like hate those.
Yeah, they were actually through some of the stories, like on Reddit and stuff. They got like a whole Reddit, subreddit for this. Okay, it's called Mall World is what it's called. But it's like people are riding on escalators that just do circles and they go nowhere. You're
Yeah,
like, it's just weird. It's weird stuff. But I mean, our dreams. I mean, a dream could just be a dream. But at what point do we start questioning? Well, like, why are all these people having the same dreams? And like being able to map out these malls and like people are remembering the same things were in their dreams that other people are having in their dreams. So I don't know.
You think
We
like the consciousness comes from a base,
yeah.
I can't think of what that's called, what they refer to that, but refer to like genius ideas and things that people get epiphanies
Mhm.
are like travel bits of information that we're all connected to that travel to us, that comes to us from time to time. So maybe there's things that have come to all of us that are the same.
Mhm. Yes, well, of course, I kind of played devil's advocate a little bit too because I was like, well, we've got all this technology, and I was going to ask you about that too. Like, where does all the, I know you use some technology when you're doing your investigations, like your K2 meters and your
Mhm.
probably got REM pods and recorders and all that. Um, you know, as far as like the dream state goes, we've got all this frequency going on, like frequency weapons and Wi-Fi and 5G and all that kind of stuff. We've got all these sonic, infrasound, ultrasound. I don't want to just say weapons, but some kind of technology around us. And I wonder personally, like how does that affect like what's going on out there with us? As far as like doing the cryptid field research or even the paranormal field research, it's like some of this could be technology based. I think. What do you think about that?
Well, sometimes you might have thoughts like that. Like I know if REM pod, like random REM pod interactions, show that there's some kind of like signal or something that's physical that you can't see that's interacting with the field it creates. So, they say that's like somehow can be could be happening because of like an encounter with energy or spirits, or walkie talkies can do it.
Mm-hmm.
That was something early on I've learned, so I always watch when I use my walkie talkie. um, so there's things that you can't really see that could be natural that do this kind of stuff too, like walkie talkies are one. um, I had, you were talking about portals. The cameraman and I had an encounter, and lucky enough, it was captured on thermal of what we're calling it a portal because of its behavior and
Mm-hmm.
because it had a very strange hot temperature, like over 1,000 degrees.
What?
So it was like, and when you see it, you can almost see something that looks like it's connected to it that moves. So it almost looks like there could be either something coming out of it or something leading to it. And I always wondered, like, could there be something that's naturally causing some kind of a, I mean, it seems so far-fetched because even at the point where his thermal picked up this object which looked like a little point, it was black heat, white, white and black mix, and the
Mm-hmm.
thermal black was heat, a little black spot that started like 200-300 degrees, and then you can just see it expand, and it goes like this. And as soon as it starts to expand, automatically it goes to the max temperature rating. It goes like 200, 300, 500, and then it goes
Yes.
to max, which is over 1,000 degrees. And then it stays, it goes like to a certain size, and then it comes back to that small point again and goes back to like the 200, 300 degrees. And he's watching this. It was a weird night. A lot of weird stuff was going on. I had my feet, actually, I was taking my boots off and I was getting in a little stream to try to cleanse because I was getting a little freaked out. And at that time, he captured that like 20 or 30 feet, looked like above me. And he starts like going, kind of freaking out because this is pretty insane what he's looking at. But he's got that on his thermal, and we put that in both of our videos to show that, because that, but when I saw this reflection of something, I wondered, I'm like, is that coming from somewhere? And then I started
Mm-hmm.
wondering, I'm like, what could there be military wise, or what could there be even civilian wise, somehow
Mm-hmm.
like something that's projecting, and there's a beam that's caught and you can actually see it all the way out here where we're at. We're over in Cuyahoga Forest, near Akron. And you can see that, and it literally looked like it's like what it was doing made us think of a portal because of it
Mm-hmm.
going, expanding and contracting. It did it several times like that. And that made me wonder too about, could this be natural? But it seems so strange. It was hard to think of, like, in military, I know how it goes, like, with their the radio waves, the potential for that are very harmful. Because like, I've been to Iraq a couple times, and I know on the FOBs early on when I was there in 2003, on one of the bases we built, there was a comm section, and they had some antennas, and the signals were strong enough that there had to be a radius marked to not enter, because it's technically, it could be lethal, from the projected X waves and stuff that come from it. So I know there's things that could possibly cause some problems for us, when we're out. But when you're just out in the park and things like that, it seems hard to imagine that somehow you're catching something from, something natural that would be that strong. So it's hard to imagine that you'd be out investigating just out in the forest and somehow you'd run into some kind of military waves from something that's on a base around the corner or something.
It's not unusual though. Okay, so wow, this is really cool that you're bringing this up, because last weekend, a week ago tonight, I got two of us out in the field. We had a good crowd with us. Probably had about 10 people out there on this field investigation, and two of us got hit with some infrasound. The only thing we could describe it would be infrasound, and I think we're getting too close to something. And when you're talking about the military stuff, okay, like the way I look at it, I talked about that on my show on Monday. I brought my good friend Barry on. We talked about infrasound, the different types of infrasound when it comes to like cryptid infrasound and then military infrasound. And I know from experience, there are, I don't want to say military people, but people contracted in some way. I believe, whether it be government or some kind of secret agency, I don't know, but they keep an eye on some of the cryptids out there. There's no doubt. I've had whistleblowers that have come out, people that I know personally have talked to me about that. And what we've deduced, and I've had some conversations with some people about this, is like, well, if it wasn't a Bigfoot that hit us with that infrasound that made us both sick on Saturday night, it was someone out there potentially, this is a heavily seen Dogman encounter area there. Okay. And there are potentially programs with like Dogmen and cryptids and people that keep an eye on them and do control them through infrasound. That's what I've been told. And so did I get hit with some kind of like handheld Medusa technology out there? Possibly. Okay. It could have been that. It could have been a Bigfoot. We just don't know what's going on. We really don't. But we can only kind of put it out there and have a conversation about it. Just to bring the awareness out there to other field investigators, even like yourself, and you've got some military experience under your belt. And I wanted to also address the portal as well. My team we were up in North Georgia in the mountains, and we were sitting at base camp, and we were at one of our more active spots where and by active, I mean cryptid infested, basically. And we were sitting out there one night, and we actually had a portal we consider to be a portal open just like that in our camp, right behind our tents. And it was actually something that it was more like a pattern, like a red grid type pattern, but it was suspended in the air, and it had an aperture to it. Like the aperture opened up, just like how you're describing. And two beings started crawling out of it.
Really?
And one of them actually got spit out of it, and the other one got sucked back in when it closed.
Now to freak me out even more, but that same night when we captured that, one of the things that led up to me cleansing in the little stream, and then led us to seeing that, he had his thermal out prior to that, and he saw it, and he captured it on his video. That thermal, I think, is in his video, not mine, but there was something that looked like a hot signature that, the way to describe it, it looks like it fell off of me.
Uh-oh.
And it looked like it literally, like somehow kind of like was there either by me or on me to freak me out even more. But it, like, he saw something and it looked like that heat signature, like something fell off of me that didn't make sense and then was gone. and then he started telling me about that, and then we had a lot of other things, and then the portal.
Uh-oh.
So, maybe that was something else, and it was a hot
Mm-hmm.
signature too. Strange. And if you want to see that portal, I could show you that clip from my
Yeah.
video of that if you're curious to what it looks like. But I
Yes,
don't want to bog
absolutely.
up I don't want to bog up with my clips of stuff.
I want to see it.
I was going
I
to
mean, do
say
you want to show
all
it
this.
now, or should we just put a link in there for the
I could show
people to
you
watch
now
it
if you
later?
want to see it.
Let's watch it now.
Yeah, because
Thank you.
all these things I'm talking about, like all of these, I are from videos, and I usually make clips of them for stuff like this to show people on the spot.
Okay. Oh my God, this is a
Just gotta-
treat.
I just got to dig it up here real quick. It's not too far.
No, this is a treat. And thank you for your service. You're in the military.
problem.
I see.
Yeah, I was in the Marine Corps Reserve for an 8-year total contract from 1997 to 2005, and then I went into the National Guard in 2006, and I got out in 2014.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for your service.
Sure.
We love our military vets over here at the Cryptid Hunters channel.
All right, let me get this right here for you.
Oh my gosh. Of course. So wait, were you in Ohio?
Yes.
Where this was taken? Okay,
this was Summit County. This is right on the Akron. This is in Akron. It's Cuyahoga Forest.
Okay.
Let me see. Are you okay? You've got it up there.
Yeah, it's up.
Okay.
Yeah, it is up on the screen.
This is where he started recording it, and as you can see, if you're not familiar, I don't know, you probably know thermals, but anybody that doesn't know, you've got 3 points which are all turned on. You've got 2 active seeking points. One looks for the coldest spot, and one looks for the hottest spot. This green is looking for the coldest spot on the screen, and then the red looks for the hottest spot, and then this is just a center crosshair which shows the temperature right where that dot is. So right at this point, it's finding, like a little over 1 degree at the coldest spot in this gap of the sky. And then over, because I looked up the specs on this thermal, goes over, it's like 960 some degrees is what it's set at for its max. So if it goes over, it's going over that temperature.
That's hot.
So you would imagine that it's pretty close to 1,000 degrees once it goes over 960. So, but how hot it actually got, we don't know. But here, I'll play this so you can see the whole thing. Here it goes.
Okay.
Start to shrink there. So the temperature dropping now gets small. That's Jack pointing at it. Now, what I was talking about, you see this here? There's like this little wave.
Yes.
This is what I was talking about, where I thought if this is some kind of projection from something, where it's from it, you'll see it here. Right here, it starts here.
Okay.
And you can see it almost looks like it's coming out. My guess is if it's coming out, then this is actually manifested by itself up here. Unless this is whatever this is going to it, then it's like projecting it. It's leading to. See right here?
Yes.
Let's just replay it again. So I wondered honestly, I feel like it's coming from. Jack got pretty sick after this night, and I was a little bit under the weather too. We both got something bothered us a little bit afterwards.
Wow. So you You said that you and Jack both got sick?
Jack was pretty sick after this.
Interesting.
I was a little bit under the weather, but I did notice that I wasn't feeling that great after that night. But he actually, if I remember right, he went to like his doctor. He went to the hospital because he was pretty sick.
Oh my gosh. Well, you know, something that we deal with when it comes to these portals and paranormal cryptids, everything that we're dealing with out there pretty much has a little dose of radiation to it.
Yeah.
And I was actually really concerned about last weekend because the way my friend Harley and I both got very sick at 2 different times, but very close to each other within like 30 minutes of each other. We both got zapped. It's what we call zapped.
Yeah.
Okay. And now was that man-made technology or was that cryptid, zapping? We don't know for sure, but however, it was almost like it could have been like radiation poisoning for all we know.
Electromagnetic energy messes with your brain waves too. So,
Mhm.
that's why like once they realized that, that's when they started insulating wiring. Because early wiring was just like knob and tubed, it was just wired on a spool through the house, an open wire with no insulation. And then they realized that electromagnetic energy affects your brain waves and it would cause people to have health problems.
Oh yeah.
And they had to start insulating wiring.
Oh yeah, we actually, so those, I'd mentioned the portal earlier, like that one portal that one of my team has documented. Both of those gentlemen that were guided over to check that out have died.
Wow.
And we've always had our suspicions that they both got sick because of that, or maybe it had something to do with it. Even Bob, one of the gentlemen he just passed away last year, he was one that went in there. He had his suspicions that it had something to do with that. With that incident out there. And, we carry our Geiger counters, our Geiger meters out there. And pretty much anytime something paranormal occurs, there's a spike of radiation. It might just be tiny, but there's still a spike of radiation. And, those are not the only 2 gentlemen that have had health problems after this. Like we've actually had to meet as a team at times to make a real serious decision as to whether we want to continue out in the field doing our research.
Right.
Because of the dangers of this radiation we're getting out there.
Yeah, that's a scary side of what could possibly happen.
Mm-hmm.
There was a time recently, well, it was probably not too recent, it was about a year ago. I had my trimeter, which measures electric and magnetic energy. I usually keep that on. I found it's a pretty good tool for communication, just for some way of intelligent, like yes and no things, if you have nothing else. But I was using it, and I saw a spike, and I was filming. It was in one of the daytime investigations at a place called the Pines, and I heard the beeping. A spike started, and I caught it with the camera just as I had it out in front, and it went up to over 5,000 milligauss, and it died.
It did?
Yeah,
The
but I
battery died?
saw it. I saw it. I saw it go over 5,000, which was I was like, I'm like, something had to be wrong. I'm like, there's no way. And then I double checked it, like freeze framed it in the video, and you can see it. Where it did capture it, because I was being a little lazy with the hand. I didn't have it like perfectly flat. I had it laying out in front of me because I was using it just to listen for the responses. I wasn't really reading the meter. And then I heard it, and then as I tilted it, I saw it with my eyes, and I did capture with the camera. Like I froze frame, I hit pause, and I looked for it, and you could see it. It goes over 5,000 something milligauss right before it shut off.
Jeez. That's wild. It
Yeah,
kind of makes you wonder, like, did something just like pop out of a portal or something? I
yeah,
mean, it sounds wild, but speaking of portals too, is right where Harley, my friend, had gotten zapped, as we're going to call it. He had like some infrasound. I did not know he had been zapped until I walked up to the top field, because he got zapped in the bottom, the first field we came to, and then about 10-15 minutes after he got zapped, my friend Keith and I walked up to the top field where he was, and then I got zapped at that field. But where Harley had been zapped, my buddy Keith and I had walked up to that field, and he was looking through his thermal, and I saw it too. Two heat signatures, just hot heat signatures on two trees.
Wow.
Two trees. And that was around almost the exact location where Harley had been zapped. Now, a phenomenon that I have covered, I've had plenty of people that have come on my shows to say that, like, trees might be portals. Trees could be used as portals. And I've taken some deep dives into that. And a matter of fact, I have one of my teammates, Tony. He has a story about his uncle running from the cops and running behind a tree out his back door. And then on the other side of the tree, a dog ran out, like a wolf. And then when the cops left, the dog trotted out of the woods, went behind that tree, and his uncle came out the other side again.
Wow.
Okay. Now that's weird. Okay. That's weird. But that's one possible use of a tree as a portal, maybe.
While you're on that about the trees, there was actually, that's pretty coincidental, because I've had some reliable friends that have been doing research, and I've heard stories, and I've heard more than one have encounters with what they claim in physical that they seen was a Sasquatch that came from a tree and was like personal, like within, an arm's length to the tree, come out. And I've heard this from multiple people. And I actually wondered if, just, it goes really deep with, I think, about the energy and everything. Mm-hmm. So I actually just did a little calculation because I was like, what kind of potential energy you're talking about with trees, right? And I was wondering, and I took a look, and you can figure a formula to take E volts to volts calculation, and you can figure out E volts based on just an average size. Like, say I did an average size oak tree that was like 2,000 pounds, like 100 foot. And the E volts that are the potential E volts stored in just the carbon atoms in a tree equal like 16,000 volts equivalent of potential stored energy just in carbon atoms in a tree.
Wow. And
you think about like photosynthesis and the rest of the composition of the tree and everything else in nature, plants. And it's like, it's like a potential of energy that's like infinite.
Well, there you go, folks. That makes all the sense right there. It makes so much sense because there's something about the trees. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you have done the calculations. You did the math. Okay.
Just a little dab.
Yeah. Well, I love this more than I've done. I've just looked at it and been like, what in the world is going on here? But yeah, I mean, we had two very, very hot heat signatures on two trees that were right beside each other up there, right where Harley had been zapped. And so our conclusion was, what we had deduced from all this was like, well, maybe these, and we didn't think about it at the time, but now we've been thinking about it because I got zapped too. And we're like, well, maybe something had used those trees as portals and or had, gone into those trees, or however it works. We don't know. But maybe those trees have been used as portals, because the way that the heat signature was sitting on those trees, it was like in the middle of the trees. It wasn't at the top. It was almost like could something have been leaned against it? Yeah. Okay. Maybe, but it was so hot. It wouldn't have made a lot of sense. You know what I mean? And it was in the middle of the night. So none of the other trees had heat on them. None of them. Yeah. It was just those two.
Well, that's been a pretty consistent thing too. We've noticed sometimes I think we've caught maybe a trail that ended at a tree. Mm-hmm. And it seems like when you catch eye shine, at times you might see eye shine that's not what it appears to be something natural, not a deer, but some kind of like tall eye shine. It always seems like they're behind trees, or are they with the tree somehow? Or, those thoughts cross my mind, because I've captured a couple thermal images where something looks like, one time I actually saw it on a thermal, but couldn't see it with my eyes. There was something that was a heat signature, and it was like at a tree, and it looked like it was kind of like moving, looking, it was doing like this at me. And yeah. I thought it was pretty funny, because I was kind of like, what the hell is that? Like, it was there, and it was hot, but I had my light right on the tree where I was, and there was nothing there. So the trees, seem to be like, something. There definitely seems to be something to trees, and the phantom knocks. They always seem to come from trees to me. That's what always sounds like to me. They sound like they're some form of what would be a sound that would be made from an impact of the tree of some kind.
Oh yeah. Well, there's so many interesting noises out there, especially when Bigfoots are around, and yeah. It could be coming from the trees. Listen, there are plenty of people that believe there are fairies out there too, and fae and gnomes and all sorts of stuff. But of course, I try to stick to the Bigfoots. But I have to keep an open mind. There could be anything out there, and the trees. We always have to pay attention to the trees. We do, whether it's looking up to make sure there are no dogmen about to pounce on us. to just looking at the whole idea of them being portals. I think that's a very important. I think more people are talking about it today, and I think that we experienced that last weekend. So I don't know. I tend to think that those wood knocks are actually the Bigfoots clicking their tongues. That's what I think.
Yeah, it sounds maybe maybe it's like if that is what it is, it maybe it's almost meant to like have a camouflage effect of it being what sounds like something in nature, right? Like a tree getting hit by something. Almost like maybe it helps keep it hidden from where it's coming from by sound. It sounds like it could be, like you're like something hit that tree. You're like something hit that tree, and it's meant to sound like that because it kind of throws you off, thinking that it's something from by the tree, and it's not, a Sasquatch or a cryptid making that sound.
The Sasquatch sleight of hand.
Yeah. Oh,
little magicians.
Have you ever heard of the staff?
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the staff?
The staff? No.
Yeah, there's
Like
somebody, William. Staff? I don't know if you know who William from Maryland, Squatch Watcher.
Squatch Watcher? I don't know. I'm not sure.
Maryland Squatch Watcher. His name is William. I heard him talking about the staff before, and I had watched a dark figure run out from behind a big mound. I was watching the cameraman. It was the day I couldn't make it out to one of the hunts, and I was watching him and Trapper on a live stream, and I saw something dark run real quick step from behind a mound where they were at, and
a mound like an Indian burial mound kind of mound.
Well, I don't know if it was like it wasn't like that big of a mound. It could have been like maybe just dirt or something that had grass had grown over it, turned into like a mound, but it was like tall enough that you could kind of not see a person behind it. And I saw it real dark, but I seen it come quick stepping real fast from behind it. They didn't see it. I was freaking out in the chat because I'd seen it. And then I watched this for a long time. I watched this. I'm watching, I'm like, where was this at? Like, you can see it. And then I went to where it first appeared, and I'm watching it, and I'm watching it. And I'm watching it, and I just see this, what looks like this stick that's kind of weird, out of place, which I started noticing this more and more. I'm like, boy, that's weird. What is that? I'm like, it doesn't look like it's part of that tree, but it does. And then it literally looks like somehow that object that looks like a stick all of a sudden like changes, and then this thing starts moving, and I'm just scratching my head like, what am I seeing here? And then I happened to watch a podcast with William from Maryland Squatch Watcher, because the guy who's doing the podcast, I knew him, and I was just watching, and he started talking about the staff, and he started saying like, this stuff I never heard before, like the Sasquatch use this. It's actually called like their language, and they use this for communication. They use this for travel, like multi-dimensional travel. He was talking about some of this stuff, and then I saw a photo that he showed of basically like, this is what it would look like, and I am not even joking. I saw this thing, and it was exactly like this weird shaped stick that I saw that looked like this dark figure that just come like quick stepping away that seemed to just like somehow be connected to what looked like the stick. This stick looked exactly like this thing he called a staff. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. I'm like,
Like a
what?
wizard staff, like a
You could say
walking
that.
stick looking
Yeah, it
thing.
kind of looks like a branch or a stick, but it had a
Yeah.
unique shape.
Oh my
And
gosh.
and I literally was it just blew my mind because when I saw him, I saw his picture of it. And then because I spent so much time looking at this video of this thing walking away because I wanted to see where it came from, if I could see it better. And all I kept coming to was like this weird stick thing's there. Then it does something weird. And then this thing walks away. And then I saw his diagram of this thing he called the staff and he started explaining it. And when I saw the picture of it, I remembered that. I'm like, that looks exactly like that weird stick thing that looked like this thing walked away from. And
Whoa.
I was really baffled. I actually had him on and I started talking to him about it. And I showed those clips on a live stream with him. And I was like, look at this. I'm like, doesn't that look like what the staff you're talking about? And he said that it was. And that was just some weird stuff, some more things that I kind of picked up from other people who have been doing research with cryptids and things.
Well, can I tell you something? I've got a dot to connect there. Okay.
Sure.
Because that is super cool that you said that. Because there is a cemetery in Ohio. It's around Akron, I believe. We kind of talked about it a little before we went live today. Okay. And you and I were talking about this, and I was asking if you'd heard of the grave digging Dogman.
Oh yeah.
Out of Ohio. And my sweet friend on Facebook, I met Colleen through Facebook, but Colleen Norris, she came on the show, and she is amazing. She's a Bigfoot and Dogman researcher and investigator out of Ohio, not too far from where you live, I think. And she owns this video. It's actually a video of her daughter's friends, who were on their supper break at a Mexican restaurant, she said. And they had gone and taken a break. I don't know. When I was in high school, I used to go cruise around too, just like these girls were doing. But they cruised into a cemetery. And they happened, one of the girls had her cell phone videoing what they thought was an old, dirty woman digging a hole in the ground in the cemetery.
Wow.
She kept saying, "Is that a dirty lady?" Like a dirty lady. And she was digging around. Let me see. I may have one picture. I don't know. It's not a very good picture here, but I'll try to pull this up. I had a bunch of pictures. I couldn't get them to come up before the show today. So let me just take some, I'll show you some screenshots here. Here's one. And this is clearly a dark all black body of something here. And in the video, you can actually see this thing with its arms up in the air, and it is frantically digging a hole in the ground, and these arms are long, and it is just absolutely weird. Okay. But it's digging into the cemetery where the cremains are buried of people. And there's actually not a there wouldn't be a body, but there was not an urn there with any cremains in it, because Colleen's friend is buried right there. That's actually her friend's who passed away. It's his wife's spot, and she's still alive. So, but Colleen went and checked this out the next day after this happened. These girls told they knew that Colleen was a Bigfoot investigator and stuff, and showed her the video. She went out there and she investigated it. And there's actually pictures. She sent me all these pictures we showed on the show of the hole that was there. And
Wow.
she measured the hole where there was no cremains there. There was nothing there, but this thing was frantically digging like it was, some people were like, well, it's trying to get a bone, or, it looked clearly like a Dogman. It had ears on top of its head and everything. The arms, when she measured it, you could see it was sitting on its knees, leaned over, digging, and she measured the hole. The arms would have been way longer than human arms to have dug that far. And these girls got a video of it for a while. It never stopped digging the whole time they were there. They ended up driving off, and they were confused about it. But on Monday, the hole was there until Monday morning. She went back, and the cemetery staff had actually covered it up and put flowers on top of it with a mound, like someone had been buried there. And when she confronted them about it, she said, what happened out there? And they said, oh, well, some animals dug a hole. It was animals. It happens all the time. So it makes you wonder, because she's taken so many Dogman reports out of that area, a lot of Dogman sightings. And if the cemetery staff was so nonchalant about that and just covered it back up with a mound with like a row of, fake flowers on top, like somebody had just been buried, that says a lot in my book right there. It's like, oh, business as usual. It's another Monday morning with more holes dug out here. But okay, so circling back around to the staff. Okay, what was that thing digging for? Right. I've had multiple friends of mine, investigators, experiencers, researchers, have been on the show. My friend Eric Testerman was on the show with me, and he was like, well, he's a Marine vet as well, and he spent a lot of time overseas, combat, just being overseas, deployed. And I don't know what all he did over there, but he has a lot of knowledge on stargates and portals and all that kind of stuff. And he was talking about portal keys. And I know this is kind of getting into history here a little bit and just art. Seeing pictures of like the Anunnaki holding the purse. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And it's like, what is that? Well, some people say that like you have to have some sort of an object that will change your frequency to enable you to be able to go through these portals safely without dying. Okay. It's got something to do with lifting your frequency or lowering it, or I don't know. But maybe, just maybe, he had mentioned, well, maybe that Dogman was digging for a portal key, is what he said. Now, I don't know. It's just to bring this all into perspective. You know what I mean? It's like, well, that staff might have been like a portal key of some sort.
That kind of sounds about what, from some of the description that William told me about it. He said they used it for travel, like interdimensional, like travel. And he said that it's like their language. So somehow it's like on a level of actual communication that might be non-verbal, you could say. That it was like a whole lot of like just new information, things I've never heard, but it was compelling. Like it changed my, it brought something, I should say, it just brought something to the table or the equation that I had no idea about. But when he started talking about it and described it, that moment when I seen that what looks like the same shape of this, just I was like, knew that there seems to be that this matches up with what I just witnessed in the video.
Wow.
Something like that. Like that same object, that a strange, really dark shadow thing just like quickly moved away. Like it was like, I don't know if you could say it almost looked like it was just there. And then for some reason, because they were in close proximity, it just decided to move away. And, it just literally appeared out of the darkness. And somehow this weird shape of this stick thing was where it originated from. And then it changed.
Whoa, man. I mean, I just love getting this more information to like kind of, like I said, connecting the dots, man. I love connecting the dots with all this and just getting more experiences and more information. And it's kind of like, but I don't know exactly what to do with it other than like, pack it, just put it out there. You know what I mean? Yeah. Package it away and kind of like, well, we can, all this information, it's going to come together more cohesively one day. Right. But for now, it's like, we're all having these different experiences and we're having, but they're kind of the same. It's like different cryptids, ghost hunting, Dogman investigating, Bigfoot researching, all this stuff. There's like some common threads here, so to speak.
Yeah. And I've found that I've always been, when I first started doing this, I was doing it out in the forest, and I was looking for remains of a witch pressing site at West Branch off of an urban legend. That's when I started like getting EVPs that just seemed to, come out of nowhere, just out in the forest, investigating these like remains or sites, like an old burial ground in an old area that looks like it was a pressing site where this witch was pressed at.
What is witch press mean? Is that like smushed to death?
I think it originated in France. It was a form of like, of course, French. They seem to have like some of the uh, oldest, craziest forms of like torture.
Torture?
Or, yeah,
Oh man.
execution. It's an execution basically. But what they did was women who were accused of witchcraft. It was a way that they would press the evil out of them, and they would basically sprawl them and subdue them so that they couldn't move their arms or legs, and then they would place boards or a big board on them, and then they just kept stacking stones more and more and more and more until
Oh
they were
man.
just covered with a pile of stones that just they just died from the asphyxiation, from being crushed. And
Man,
that
that's
was
cruel.
basically where they said that they left them there. They never buried them. They just left them at the site of where they were pressed at.
Oh
So they were like
wow.
piles of stones were called pressing. Like that was how you'd find a pressing site or an area would be from the pile of stones where they were pressed at. So
Oh
there was an area
wow.
kind of like that in West Branch where people thought that's what it was. Um, I don't think that's what it was. I think it was an old foundation section or something that looked like the size of a person. Um,
Wow.
but that's where I was at. And this stuff, these things started happening. Voices, EVPs. I heard something that sounded like some kind of a voice, and it projected weird. Like it had a weird
Okay.
pitch to it, but it sounded like a vocal. All that led up to that sighting I told you about, where I seen something there that was
Mm-hmm.
moving. It was definitely moving on two legs bipedal, but it wasn't like staggering or slouching. I mean, it was moving. It was running fast, and I seen it
Wow.
clear trees. Um, and it was that was where things changed for me from what I was expecting. You know, I was expecting like I'm going to be trying to get these voice phenomenons to happen that I knew happened, and then I see something run behind this tree like 50 yards out,
Mm-hmm.
straight ahead. And then I was like, I had a moment where I was froze when I saw that. I froze up because I'm like, I just seen something that was real, that was big, it was very big. I mean, I'm trying to place a height, probably 8 feet, if not bigger.
Whoa.
Moving on two legs. It was shiny. It looked like it had some kind of scales or something. It didn't look
Scales.
hairy. It was shiny. Yeah, it was very, very shiny, and it looked like it had like some kind of armor or weird. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh,
And
no way.
its head had like these weird, like there was a lot of. It looked like tendrils or something strange around its head. Like I managed to
What?
see that in like the maybe half of its body as it cleared as it was moving behind this tree, and I froze up because I just seen something that was very real, that wasn't like phantasmal, and it's
Yeah.
very close to me. And I just seen it run that way. Now I'm like, where's this thing going? Where is it going right now? Is it going to be coming up here? Like all this hit me, and I just like did a deer in headlights, and I didn't know what to do. And then I finally just came to, and I just was like, well, let's just see what happens, because
Was
I don't know what's going to happen. I'd say that was one of the
yeah.
times I was scared. Was that when I seen that?
Yeah, it sounds almost like something from what is it, like Alien versus Predator or
Predator.
something,
It,
right?
like that's literally. It seems so weird, but it literally, I like it appeared to be very similar to the Predator in its features.
Well, wait, is this the same site where you had the actual Predator Shimmer Man thing too? The one with
No,
the red light? It's different. Okay.
yeah, it's different. This was when I was just before I started working with the cameraman, like in my first like month that I was started filming for my channel on my own.
Uh-huh.
This is that incident's what made me reach out to the cameraman, because I knew he was working with cryptids and he did like research like that. So I reached out to him and told him about it because he was working in the same area where I was. And then I
Wow.
learned a lot of the things he had seen. I saw a lot of thermals of things that he's seen there, and I knew right then that what I'd seen was something that he had captured before. and
Wow.
I mean, like I could literally show you crap all day. I could show you these thermal images of the strangest beings in West Branch, like
Man.
a weird, super hot head looking like looks like a bipedal um, thing, extremely round and very hot head. and then weird thermals of those changing shapes. The
Shapeshifter?
weird like head things seemed to be disconnected and would go up into the air.
What?
Yeah,
That's
some
awesome.
strange things. And West Branch and Ravenna actually they've been analyzing it and studying the vegetation and things because there was a professor. He puts on seminars and things here. He's a teacher and a professor. He works for the Historical Society here in Portage County, and they've been intrigued by West Branch. Sometime during their research of studying it, the vegetation and soil, they revealed something that they couldn't believe. And this is one of the things he talks about in the seminars that they truly believe, based on the evidence of the soil and the vegetation and everything, that West Branch never froze over during the Ice Age. And
What?
and this was what baffled them, and why they study West Branch so much is because of that. And wouldn't you know it, this is where I had my sighting, where like the cameraman started and had his weird encounters. And this is where it started for me, was there, and all the strangeness I ran into. So automatically my mind was like, I switched from, I'm going to be out here getting, evidence of ghosts talking to me and stuff like that, to like, now I've got things running that I can see that I can't describe what it is. I've got weird voices projecting at me that seem to be almost like sonar like in a way. And I'm like, that was so strange. And yeah, it's just that's why, like, early on I adapted quick to realize there's a lot going on that isn't what you think or what it is. It's not
Ooh,
just like spirits talking to you. There's there's a lot going on out there.
there is. You know what? You know what I was thinking? Like, we've got a vast underground network of tunnels and gosh knows what down there, deep underground military bases and all that. I gotta wonder if it didn't ice over. I know this is kind of out there, right?
Mhm.
But I'm not opposed to talking about reptilian hives underground and stuff. I mean, I know it sounds kind of crazy, right? But it's like, that's just weird that it didn't freeze. It's like hot, like the ground is hot there, like that, and
Hmm.
all that activity, and plus all the exorbitant amount of Dogman sightings out there. It's wild. I really do need to get you in connection with Colleen Norris at some point. She's got a lot of, I mean, she's got a whole map of, all the sightings out there. A lot of the Dogman sightings are near the highways out there too. For some reason, cemeteries and highways seem to be a couple of very some hot spots, so to speak, when it comes to the Dogman sightings out there. But a lot of Bigfoot activity too. She's a Bigfoot investigator as well, so there's something going on there.
Yeah, I
Something.
mean, the highways were something that we looked into as well. Like Jack and I, we did that just to see like some areas and some of the parks we were at that are close
Yeah.
to major highways. We filmed there to see what would happen, and because it made sense, like, if you've got a lot of like just energy from traffic moving, even water, like
Mhm.
water flow, all that seems to have some kind of an environmental effect from energy. And we just had a curiosity if that was like, a way it would increase activity in these
Mhm.
areas. So it's
Yeah.
inconclusive, but it seemed like generally it was more active in some of the areas we're in.
Mhm. Wow. And the people, we talked about earlier, it's like, well, the people, maybe it's just the people over there too. Who knows?
Yeah.
Uh, but nonetheless, man, that sounds like a really, really cool area to investigate. And I can't wait to dig some more into some of those videos you guys have made out there. And I know Long Island Bigfoot Mike has spoken very highly about all you guys.
Oh,
And
he's great.
yeah, it's fun. It's fun to get to connect with other field researchers too, and people that have had some of these experiences like we've had out there, and just to swap some stories and just to kind of feel a little better. Like I'm not that crazy. People are having these experiences out there too, just like I am. So that's always good. Yeah.
Yeah, and with social media now, everybody's able to share all these experiences now. You kind of
Hmm.
get overloaded, but you get a lot of information.
Yeah, you do. You do. Well, man, Mike, this has been a really fun conversation tonight.
Oh
And
yeah, for sure.
man, I really appreciate you coming on the show tonight and sharing your experiences with us and stuff. And I know you got a YouTube channel if you want to tell the audience about it and anything you'd like to promote tonight. Let's talk about it.
Well, my YouTube channel is MT Paranormal Life. It's been on there for about 3 years now, and I do have links for a Facebook group. So if you want to join Facebook group, that's usually where I'll post updates, and I'll add like some extra information on the Facebook group. Sometimes I usually drop like heads up on what I'm doing, things like that. The things that you can't really do on YouTube, I do that on the Facebook group. So all you gotta do is just request to join, and I'll pretty much accept you.
Sweet. Sweet. Look at all these videos. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
And you
I'm
said you
always
like to
out
do
filming.
shorts too.
I'm always out looking for places because Ohio's got a lot of history, especially with like natives, and because there's so much water here around here. We're right on the edge of Lake Erie. There's a lot of fresh water around here. There were plenty of like ancient natives that settled around here too. There's right by me. There's a burial that was accidentally unearthed and excavating, and that goes back to like 300 BC to like 600 AD Hopewell culture. So there's a whole lot of like history of inhabitants, from way back around this area, around the water here. So there's a lot of places that I like to go investigate, and seems like there's a lot that goes on. Like I said, I think that too. I think a lot of it has to do with the people, with you.
Yeah,
I think if
it
you're on the
does.
right frequency, things want to communicate with you and interact with you.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And what would you say to somebody like we've got a lot of field investigators in and researchers in the live chat right now. And a lot of I got some of my buddies in here and stuff. So what but for people who want to get out and start doing some investigating and whether that be like ghost hunting or cryptid investigating or whatever, what kind of advice would you give people? Is there anything that you've learned that you could share that might help people out there?
You got to give it time, and most people do it because they have personal experiences that they want to explore more, but not everybody does, and they're just curious and they want to like, they want to do ghost hunts, and they want to have experiences, and I think that's all good. But just you have to be genuine. That's probably the most important thing is be genuine, um, understanding, acknowledgement, and respect. Those are the three things that I say are like core values.
Mhm.
Understand that what you're dealing with is on a higher dimensional level, higher being. They're higher. They're in every which way higher than us as a species, whatever you're referring to. Even though like the spirits are what we will become, and we're different now, but they're on a higher dimensional level. The respect. Always show the respect. Make your own offering in a way. Whatever you do, just
Mhm.
vocalize your intent wherever you go. Vocalize what you're there for. And it seems a little weird at first, you might say, because you don't know what you're really doing, but that's what I'm saying. Just be genuine, and you'll come to see that it'll be more normal. It'll be more natural for you the more you do it. Um, and just acknowledge them. Acknowledge the entities, acknowledge the spirits. Let them know they're there, right? Like you might have doubts, and you just start a conversation, start monologuing. You don't even have to necessarily be direct, but once you feel comfortable enough to think that they're listening, start talking, like acknowledge them, let them know they're there, and you might be doubtful, but like I said, you'll see if you're genuine, you'll see that you'll start having experiences, and those three things are the key things that I think make a big difference in what I say manifests these kind of encounters.
Oh yeah, I agree. I love that. I think you've got it. I think you've got it figured out. I really do. I appreciate it. I appreciate you being here and sharing your experiences with us. Man, Mike, please come back
Okay,
and come hang out with me again.
we'll
And
do.
I would absolutely love that. You've got so many amazing encounters, and I know the audience has loved it tonight as much as I have. And maybe we'll cross paths sometime out in the
Yeah,
woods.
that'd be great.
Maybe so. Yeah. I need to make another trip up north soon. Up north, I'm down in Georgia. I'm down in the south. Yeah. So anytime you're down in the southeast, you holler at me. Okay, and
All
we'll
right,
take you to some Bigfoot spots out here. Okay.
that would be great.
Okay, awesome. Well, everybody in the audience, thank y'all so much for being here tonight. I hope you guys have enjoyed this as much as I have. And be sure you go over to MT Paranormal Life on YouTube and Facebook and subscribe over on Mike's channel and join his Facebook group over there. And yeah, man, we've covered a lot. We've covered a lot tonight and super awesome. I love going on the hunt with new friends on
Oh yeah,
Saturday nights. Yeah, for sure. And I think that a good takeaway too. We have a lot of takeaways for tonight, but I think another good takeaway is like there is a common thread that like kind of connects a lot of these experiences together. Like we didn't even get into like the orbs and stuff. I was going to ask you about the orbs and I forgot, but something that there's certain things that like span all the different I want to say communities, but it's like cryptids, paranormal, Bigfoot, Dogman, whatever. There's certain things that do combine all of those, okay, experiences and encounters, and it is things like orbs and stuff like that. But anyways, it's all connected. That's ultimately what I'm trying to say. It's all connected, and we're seeing a lot more of that today. And so I appreciate the talk with the Poltergeist Awakens. Now tell the audience, what is the Poltergeist Awakens? Is this one of your videos on your YouTube channel, right?
right. Yeah,
Okay.
it was at a it was an investigation that Jack, the cameraman, and myself we returned. This is a place we had been going to for years, at least 2 years. There's there's at least one known active ancient burial mound, Hopewell culture that's on the land, and they've been analyzing it, and they theorize there's plenty more burials on this ground. It's right on a freshwater lake, and you could see why this would be an inhabited area. So we've been there researching it for a long time, and it's always had just strange behavior, strange things happen. What I call forced poltergeist like activity, because everything's elusive. It's like nothing. There's really, I never get a sight on what causes the strange sounds, the strange objects to be thrown. And we were there this night, and of all the times we've been there over the past couple years, that what happened on that night was the most active and just the strangest that I can recall yet. So it was a very really good encounter, which has probably been one of my favorite, especially there, because
Yeah.
it was like everything was alive. Whatever
The
was there was
forest.
being very active.
Oh yeah, the forest just comes alive sometimes,
Yeah,
and that's exhilarating,
yeah.
and it's a little bit scary, a whole lot awesome actually, a whole
Hmm.
lot awesome and a little scary. And well, thank you for sharing that with us, and for sharing that with the world over on your YouTube channel. You guys will find the Unseen Presence, the Poltergeist Awakens, on MT Paranormal Life on YouTube. I think it's the first video when you open up your YouTube channel, right? So you guys go over and check that out, and we're gonna have Mike back on the show. Mike, come back and see me,
I will
okay?
do.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much, Mike, and you guys, thank y'all for hanging out with us tonight. It has been a pleasure. Thank you to all my moderators for being here tonight in the live chat. I will see you back here on Monday. Y'all come see me at 1 p.m. Eastern. And the things that Mike and I talked about tonight, look, this can be a little scary and stuff. I know we're out here chasing monsters, so y'all don't have to. But don't live in fear. Live in awareness, okay? And keep your head on a swivel. We are living in weird times with weird people, and that's okay. I'm weird too, a little bit crazy. but we all are. And I love you guys. I'm sending all my love and light out to you guys tonight. And come back and see me on Monday. Mike, it's been a pleasure. And I can't wait to see you again in the future. All right, y'all. Have a wonderful night, and we'll see you next time. Bye, y'all.
Bye.